Now people will be able to hear us. I'm going to turn this darn music off. And then I'm going to turn on our scene. Because I'm sure people really care about all this stuff.
Important things.
Hello, Internet.
Hola, Internet.
Welcome to our next podcast episode. Because I don't know, is this second? Was the other one the first one? Or was
the first one was the pilot, which is considered the first episode in most cases.
Okay, so this will be the second episode of our podcast where we talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about for the next 2 hours. So welcome. Chat is open. We can see it. So if you have questions or want to interact, feel free to jump in at any time. Give us free content, please. That's mostly what I'm going to do for an intro right now.
That works.
How you doing, Ryan?
I am excellent. And also I made the mistake of looking at the Twitch stream and it's super delayed when I do that, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, you can you pop open the chat window separately? I don't know if you can do that from the main screen. I know from the console I can pop it out.
I just have it sitting. I have
like a window in front of it.
Software in front of it so that it's like not full screen, but I can see the chat to the side.
Yeah, there's like usually a 5-second delay or more. All right, so last time we talked like TV shows first and ran through a bunch of other stuff. You just want to start there or video game? No, we did video games first.
Is that where we started?
Yeah. I have a couple notes. So
I have notes.
Good. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was we mentioned a little bit about Halo Reach coming out. Mm-hmm. It is now out. I have dumped a handful of hours into it. And I have to say, it is a lot of fun to be playing it on the PC. But for competitive multiplayer modes, the mouse and keyboard pretty much ruin the game. So playing it single player, the campaign's been great. I'm like maybe halfway through it right now, and it's a lot of fun. I would like to play some co-op at some point. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But every time I jump into a battle match, matchmaking, everything is just headshots because everybody has a mouse now. Things that you could not get away with a controller.
Yeah. Part of why I loved Halo as much as I did was because it was a first-person shooter that was designed around having a controller. And for whatever reason, I can play mouse and keyboard first-person shooters on the PC, but they were I was never good at those in comparison to other people. And while I was never the best at Halo, I could hold my own in most cases. And there's just something about the controller that worked for me. So that kind of makes me sad, and I'm also kind of not surprised that that's how the multiplayer goes.
Yeah, so I'm just making sure the chat window pops up here. We haven't tested it yet. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So the controller is kind of the great equalizer, right? Like Shroud with a mouse can flick in ways that no normal human can, right? Like it's just not possible. But with a controller, you just can't do that. Like there's only so fast a controller lets you react. There's only so much it lets you do. So no matter how good you are at the game, that technical skill gets capped by a controller.
Yeah. I mean, when I was playing Halo at my peak, I would run around and I would have the sensitivity cranked as high as it could possibly go. And that would basically maxing out that limitation that you're talking about. And then you could always tell when I'd not been playing for a while because I would suddenly jump on my profile and not be able to control anything because I had lost all my touchiness. Yeah. To lower it to halfway and kind of work my way back up. But
well, one of the beautiful things about Halo with the controller is it forced you to understand the dance, right?
Yeah.
So you had to work your way in close. Yeah, you could hit headshots with a battle rifle or sniper rifle, but it was more like strafing into their heads instead of flicking to them and stuff.
Yeah.
And you just had to be that wasn't great. You could do it, but it wasn't amazing. Where the game really got amazing was getting in close with the machine gun or the shotgun, SMGs, whatever, I don't think the SMG was in reach, but whatever. You understand what I'm saying? There's a bunch of more closer weapons, and then doing that dance around each other, looking in and out of cover, and because the time to kill so long, like you really had to understand how to engage somebody and get in close and get in surgical, especially with like a shotgun melee to finish that off quickly and move on. And that really that's what set you apart in the game, was understanding the strategies and how to dance with people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds almost cheesy to say, but there was something so satisfying about the way that, like, you would, even if you had the same weapons, like you could come running head to head to each other, and there was just something about having the patience to wait for that perfect timing for the shield to drop in melee, which is the way it almost always ended. Like somebody getting in there and somebody would swing too quick and still hit the shield, and then at that point your character's going through the motions and has that time of recovery, and then suddenly your shields are gone and you're dead, or vice versa. And it's like, it was kind of almost a one-shot pony, but it was a good shot.
But there was skill involved in pulling that off, where,
yeah, for sure.
Excuse me. The right now when I play multiplayer, everybody loads in with the DRM or whatever, the battle rifle, whatever it is, and it's literally just headshot, 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 dead, headshot, 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 dead. And you're punished for ever trying to advance on somebody by 5,000 headshots, even because in this game, headshots are not hard to get because you move so slow.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like some of these modern shooters where people are ducking and diving and running and sliding and they can out juke your headshots. In Halo, you move slow and you just get absolutely punished. So anyway, that was my main gripe about Halo Reach, because I know we had talked about it coming out, and as much as I've had fun with it, it's drove me nuts what the mouse and keyboard has kind of done to the game, which I kind of expected that going into it.
No, I would love to get on some co-op though. I had some couple younger guys at work who, well, the one who I worked with in my department was telling me that they had gotten on and played 3-player co-op on Legendary and how it was destroying them.
Oh yeah.
Chuckled and was like, youngins.
Yeah, the single player, if you haven't played it or just want to revisit it, it's totally worth doing that. Or the campaign, I guess you could play it with multiple player. Yeah. But the campaign still feels really good. It looks really sharp with the higher graphic fidelity, and especially, if you're running on a higher refresh monitor and you get a lot of frames, it looks really good. So at least that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. So that's Halo. I think that's all I had. Was there anything else on Halo?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
I've logged about 30 minutes of play. That's not much.
What else? What else? Have you been playing anything else? Hey, Spectre, what's up? It's not Apex, and I probably won't talk about Apex because that game's netcode is garbage. I play a lot of Apex, and I hate every minute of it. I'm really bad on that netcode, that's for sure. Let's see. I don't know. Have you been playing anything else?
Well, as always, I've been playing Civ 5 because that's the only thing I play, apparently.
Oh yeah, that brought me into Civ 5's great and all, but have you played Northgard yet?
Yeah, actually today.
Oh, nice.
Like just 2 hours ago. I played through the first mission, which is not much, but enough to kind of get the general. It's an interesting take on an RTS. Like, it's not just a straight up build a giant base, build everything all at once. I kind of like the way it just automatically works, which then get turned into specialist units and things like that.
Yeah, I played one round, like all the way through, and I used the Dragon Clan. And I don't know if they all have this mechanic, but the Dragon Clan, in order to keep your happiness up, you have to sacrifice your units into this like altar, and you have to continuously do that throughout the game. It is quite fun throwing them in a fire pit and hear them scream, and then your happiest level for the rest of the clan goes up and up and up as you throw them in.
That's crazy. I mean, it makes sense. It's
yeah.
Vikings, but
Yep. I felt it. Yeah, it was a good take on an RTS. It was a little more. I don't want to call it civish, but I don't know, compared to something like StarCraft.
It's probably
Like,
more Age of Empire-ish.
yeah, that for sure. I would say that too, because you got to manage your resources a little differently. You got to manage food for the winter, which I thought was super cool. There's perks you can unlock if you explore the map and discover like lore, so that like your food intake is half as much during the winter. There's all sorts of fun things you can do to kind of upgrade your survivability. I lost horribly because I didn't really realize what the wind conditions were and didn't bother looking them up before I started. So I was just having fun with my little village, and I finally got wrecked by a couple winters and a couple attacks, and I got things going. I'm like, all right, I feel good. And it's like, you've lost. And there's apparently some artifact on the map you were supposed to fight over.
You're supposed to find.
I found it. I had no idea what to do with it. They took it over. But I was like, all right. So I'll probably revisit that game. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the other game, which is strangely very different a little bit of lately, is Surviving Mars, which is the mentioned this in the last one, maybe not.
I don't think so.
But basically it's another art. It's establishing like the first colony and then growing out across the planet. But it's
Your video
very much
out.
a word.
Is that me?
That connection is poor.
Oh no. Technical difficulties. People, look away. I'm just kidding. Stay there.
Going anywhere.
It was running just fine. Then all of a sudden you start glitching out.
Oh no, that's not the video. That's just me. I glitch.
You digitize your voice like that and just pause.
Yeah, it's like the when I can't remember his name now, but when the guy at the end of the guy who owns the club at the end of Scott Pilgrim is like,
oh yeah,
like flashing bad guy red, boss color red, and
Gideon.
That's what it was. Yeah, which is a great final bad guy name.
It just
feels
good.
right.
What else? I finished Fallen Order. I did like a mini review on that. It's worth it if you get it for $30. It's short. It's fun. We talked about that last time.
Oh man.
I play a lot of Overwatch. I don't know if you've been playing that at all.
I tried to play it for like a month and a half, like probably a year ago now. It was a while back, and got to the point where I realized that I was not good, and then I kind of stopped playing.
Well, the new patch is exciting. It's pretty awesome. We won't dwell on it long, but essentially, if anybody's been playing Overwatch and you've been really annoyed with how many shields have been in the game because they've really been ruining the game, they pretty much nerfed the hell out of them, and so the shield meta's kind of gone. So a couple of matches I've been playing since the patch have felt really super good. And then for video games, the last thing, because we both been long-time Xbox fans, did you see the new Xbox Series X?
I have seen some things about it, and the fact that it looks like a super machine, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Unapologetically, it's a PC, a pre-built PC by Microsoft that runs Xbox software. And some of the test footage they say has been rendered on the box looks absolutely gorgeous. So it sounds like it's going to be quite the machine.
So basically, it's the next step in slowly making Xbox and Windows into one gaming platform.
I kind of hope so. The split brain to me kind of sucks. I've noticed a lot of games recently in the last year have really gone cross-play. You have like Fortnite, a lot of the high-res games, which are like cheap knockoffs of all these other games. They all do cross-platform play. And I think that needs to be explored more and more. I know Overwatch says they'd like to do it, but I think they're kind of stuck with contracts that don't let them. I would love to see more and more, even if it's, at the very least, even if it's in the Microsoft ecosystem, it'd be really nice to blend those together a lot more and see that happen. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of details on the Xbox. It looks like it's probably the first like real substantial increase since the Xbox One. So you have the Xbox One the S and the X. And the X is pretty beastie compared to the original Xbox One, but like they feel like they're just iterations on each other.
Yeah.
This feels like it's probably the next like actual big step up. So.
And I mean, depending on how they build it, I mean, you could basically say, oh, so this essentially PC runs Xbox software. What's to stop them from being like, and now you can install Xbox software right on your Windows PC and basically play your entire Xbox library on there or on here, and just like, especially since they're pushing more and more cloud-based stuff.
Well, what's interesting too is the reason Xbox doesn't just come with Windows on it is a really old antitrust law from, was it the 90s, saying that Microsoft couldn't build computers because at the time, literally, they were the only ones making computers. So, hey, Chris, on the cooling will work on it. Reminds me of the Mac and trash can. Yeah, it does. It is like a square, almost trash can. You can also tip it on its side and kind of make it more horizontal. But cooling will be interesting. But so many machines now lately have been coming with that kind of small form factor, and cooling doesn't seem to hurt it. So we'll see. The fans might be obnoxious on it. The fan glows green on the top, so at least you got some kind of lighting. It looks obnoxious. But yeah, I lost my train of thought there for a second. But so like I'd be interested to see if they finally get around that and just like this machine just now has Windows on it, and it is actually just a pre-canned Microsoft Windows box.
I mean, that's essentially what the Surface laptops are, aren't they? I mean, they're just
so they
produce computers.
Yeah, they finally have cracked that other places, but they haven't made like an actual desktop yet. So I'm curious, since they're like, where if those worlds do merge eventually, that'd be interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking, I mean, obviously you want something with nice hardware to play it on, but like with, well, obviously we'll see how the Google, what is it? Something that starts
Stadia.
Stadia, that's what it is. I was actually very tempted to do their Black Friday special just to grab one and see what it's like, and then I realized that I already don't play any of the games that I have, and that would probably be a waste of money.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but if they can actually pull off the streaming thing without lag, without having it break up constantly, which is what I just imagine happening, they can actually pull it off. That, I mean, it's a brilliant idea, but I just don't trust internet yet.
Yeah. Well, we also live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, where I don't complain about my internet. It's not bad, but like if you lived in East Virginia and you had Stadia and you had like a 2 millisecond lag time to the servers that are probably hosted there, I bet you it's a beautiful experience. Maybe if you lived right in Chicago, right in New York, where there's hubs for these things. I don't know what Google's CDN network is going to look like, but I promise you there is not a CDN node in Traverse City. So it's just not gonna happen, you know. So we have like 30 to 50 milliseconds. So I'm concerned about that as well. I have though actually been kind of half recommending it to some people, because I know some people who have talked to me like, oh, I miss gaming, but I don't want to buy a huge machine and they get out of date. I don't play it much. The nice thing about streaming with Stadia is you shouldn't have to update that platform very often. I mean, 4K doesn't really need to be pushed across the web very much. You know what I mean? Like they won't go much higher than that. Like you won't need 8K gaming anytime soon. And most of that is going to be more on the internet connection than it is the hardware they're selling you.
Right.
So I've actually recommended, I'm like, hey, you might want to check this out for like $120. You can get into it and you stream all these games that you don't pay for. They're just there for you to play with, and you don't need to invest into a bunch of hardware, or especially PC gaming, which is so ridiculously expensive, you know?
Yeah. It's true. And it's, I mean, it really, the hardware essentially is just a slightly modded Chromecast 4K dongle that you connect a controller to. I mean, that's
right. Well, they say you'll be able to use the 4K Chromecast too, as far as I know. So like there's a better like actual Stadia branded thing, but it sounds like you'll be able to use the actual
Actual
4K
Chromecast.
if you already have it. You just need the controller or something. So trash can cooling was fine if you just don't cover the top. That's true. I mean, I imagine that's true. They're not going to release it with like, they're going to be so sensitive about that. I mean, if you remember the weird red ring of death you got on the 360 and all the problems they had with that, I'm sure they're extra sensitive about making sure their cooling is set up right. I mean, not that that was necessarily a fan problem. It was more of a problem with the heat sink interfacing with the CPU, but it was still like a big problem with overheating and stuff. Cool. That's video games, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking, not that it matters in any way, shape, or form, but it's a stupid thing to look at. How many games are in your Steam library?
Oh my god, there is a worse thing you can do. You can add, if you go to Steam's website, and I forget how I did this before, you can actually look up how much you've spent.
Oh, that is worse. I don't like that.
They changed the interface, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've basically got my favorites and then uncategorized, which gives me two numbers I have to add together. But
this says I only have 231. That seems lower than I thought it was.
you don't have it set to only available to play, ready to play, do you?
I don't know.
It's like the little play button next to the game, like the drop down.
Oh, no. Nope. That must be the total then.
Oh, weak sauce.
I banned myself from doing the humble bundles for a while. I feel like there's a bunch missing out of here.
Well, yeah, I will say that this is in large part humble bundle, but I am at. I'm doing math in my head. I am at 782. For somebody who never plays games, that's ridiculous.
That is quite amazing.
Also, probably part of why I'm not rich.
Yeah,
bundles just add up really quick if you do that at all.
Yes.
Like, oh, there's like 4 games I'm halfway interested in here. I'll do this. And then I'll get like 8 other ones I don't care about, whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't see it anymore. We did this at work. We all compared like how much we've spent on Steam before. Just follow this link. Log into your account. Oh, it's gonna be gross.
It's always gross.
Steam Authenticator. Ooh, I am up higher than I was. Yeah, I'm at like, I don't even know if I want to admit this. It's probably not as bad as most people, to be honest. Do you want the link? I'll send you the link.
Yeah, send me a link or the, yeah.
Link location. I'll put it in this chat too if anybody else wants to.
Ooh, I don't know what the difference is between old spend and not old spend, but either way, it's done.
The total spend, I think, puts it all together, though.
Yeah, I'd assume so. Let's not talk about this anymore.
You don't want to talk about it anymore? You don't want to see it?
No, we can see it. That's fine. We can share.
Old spend. What is PWS or PW spend?
I don't know, but I don't have any of that.
I don't either. Maybe that's a good thing. Are you north of $1,000?
Oh yes.
Okay, me too. But oh yeah, sounds really bad.
It's not good. I wonder, like, when you get keys for things like, say, off of Humble Bundle, if those keys just show up as retail.
Yeah, I don't know that.
It's not included at all. Because if it doesn't include Humble Bundle at all, then I have blown way too much money on my life.
All right, Spectre. What is it? It's got to be worse than mine. When we did this at work, there was one person that like blew me out of the water, but I was number 2 or 3, and the other person that I think was in second place was only a little higher than me. The total, yeah. We're just gonna go off total spend.
Make me feel better about my life choices.
Yeah, do it, Spectre. Tell me. Oh, that's rough. So Spectre says 2360. I'm at 1204. So I guess I'm all right. I'm doing all right.
Right in the middle. I am at 1760.
Oof. What about you, Brower? You gonna make us feel terrible?
Pop in there like $200. Not including the humble keys you haven't redeemed.
All right. Well, that was a fun exercise, and whatever that was.
That was an exercise in showing how. Never mind.
Silly we are. Obnoxious we are. Oh my God! Get out. Just get out.
just leave.
Just get. I know that doesn't include either like origin spend or any of those, though. I will say 99% of what I've spent is probably in. You lose your mod sword. I'm a chump. You just smarter than us, I guess. And this is over a long time. I've been on Steam since like the beginning, so I honestly don't over all those years. That's probably really not that bad.
Yeah, if you break it down into like 20 years or however long it's been.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Close to that, yeah.
So that's not super terrible. I mean, if it's 20 years at $60 a year, that would be $1,200, wouldn't it? I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Still a lot, but you know.
Yeah, I own like every Blizzard game too, but that's only 5 of them or something.
That's true. They don't exactly release multitudes of games.
Cool. Well, now I'm depressed. Let's move on.
Move on to more exciting things.
Do you watch Mr. Robot? Otis! No step on Sneck. Did you?
Otis, you need to give us your total.
Did you just get in here? Did you miss the fun? We're calling people out on their total spend on Steam. And yes, that link lets me harvest your credentials and steal your Steam account.
So click. Please click.
Lickety click click. Why we get Otis to shame us all here. Do you watch Mr. Robot? Did we talk about this last time?
I have seen season 1 of Mr. Robot, and I have yet to sit down and put time into watching the rest because I know that once I start, I must complete.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend much time on it. I just wanted to bring up that it's like one of my all-time favorite shows. Trying not to die. Hold on, Otis. Don't jump off a bridge.
Don't worry, OJ. I think I still got you on that one. So we'll see.
Spectre's got the crown, I think.
He does. Oh, he definitely does.
But it's go ahead.
I was gonna say if you include money for board games in with Steam, I might be the victor.
Oh well, yeah. Board games are hella expensive. What is this?
Talk Mr. Robot.
Oh, Steam. Sorry, Steam popped up and wanted to restart. I don't know, whatever. It's so mad at how much I spend. It's trying to restart the client. Mr. Robot, one of the best shows ever. My full intent was to finish up to the current episode, and I didn't do it, so I'm a couple behind. But if you're not watching it, watch it.
This is the final season that's out right now, right?
It is. They are wrapping up. The 4th season will be the last. Remy Malik is amazing as the lead. The show is just amazing. The show is fantastic, but I'm not going to get into anything crazy about it because I haven't finished up to date. We also talked about Witcher, which comes out this Friday. Not much more to say other than I have my parents taking the children. We're getting 2 full days off
Nice. Very
For
nice.
the wife and I just to binge it multiple times, I hope, because it looks awesome. Or cry. We may cry a lot if it's really bad, because we're kind of on the hype train about that.
I don't think it'll be bad.
I think it's going to be at least watchable
happens,
for sure. The trailers look really good, so. But we talked a lot about that last time. The other thing about TV I wanted to mention was The Expanse season 4. Have you watched The Expanse?
I have watched through the first part of season 3. I was watching it with my roommates, and we stopped watching things together.
Did you read the books?
I am in the midst of listening to the 3rd book, which I'm guessing takes us through the season 3, or at least partially through season 3.
I have no idea.
Maybe.
I haven't read the books yet. I've thought about reading the books. I think my friend Kyle, well, you know Kyle. Our friend Kyle has read them, but I don't remember. I think he mentioned something about reading those, but I have not. I want to, but I'm kind of like, once I start the show or the movie, I kind of don't want to ruin it with the book.
That's fair.
Because I typically am the type of guy that's like, the book is better than the show, and I'd rather enjoy the show in its context and then read it instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I did watch the first 2 seasons before reading any or listening to Audible for any of them. And then it was between seasons 2 and 3 where I listened to the first book, which was really good, like amazingly good.
I hear people love the books, which is why it got turned in.
Yeah. And then the second book was also very good. And then I watched the beginning of season 3. And now I've started the 3rd book. And honestly, the first half of the 3rd book really hasn't done that much for me. No, Jay. No.
All right. If you're listening to this, Otis just updated his file with what his number was from Steam. It's obnoxious.
I don't. How?
I will say, I think that's still under the guy at work who had the highest. I think he was 6 higher.
Like, not your number count, or your money count, but your game count. Where are you at on that? Because you've got to blow me out of the water now with numbers like that. Jeez.
I feel like I need to catch up. Wife, sorry, we're eating hot dogs and macaroni and cheese. I gotta buy Steam. I just cracked my chair arm. I shouldn't do that. It probably sounds terrible on stream. But she just yelled she liked macaroni and cheese. So buying the games, bobble up.
Get rolling.
I only had like 231 games, so.
See, I don't really ever buy AAA releases on Steam unless they are like half off or more. Like, dropping $50-$60 for a PC game just seems like the weirdest thing in the world to me these days.
Yeah, the last couple times I've done it, I've almost felt sick to my stomach. 589, that's respectable.
Games. That's true. If you include not games, I have like 5 extra ones or something.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing. That made me feel better anyway.
Thanks, OJ.
That may even make Spectre feel better. So back to Expanse. Another one of my all-time favorite shows. As far as sci-fi goes, it's the best thing that's come out in a long time. It's super well done. For those who don't know, Sci-Fi dropped it after season 3 because they're idiots.
Well, they're idiots, and they signed the worst deal on earth for airing it. So, I kind of don't blame them.
They're idiots because it's my show. I don't care what it puts them through. I understand the deal was bad, but
money on this every day.
I need it. But Jeff Bezos, the CEO/founder of Amazon, decided to save the show. He announced it in some crazy way. It was a big deal, so he bought the rights to the show, and he has it on Amazon Prime, and it just dropped this last weekend.
Which, again, for what it's worth, he did already have the streaming rights for it anyways, which
Yeah,
was part of what drove Sci-Fi to drop it, because they were making zero money after the initial showing, and nobody watches first run cable television shows anymore.
it's true. It's very
But,
true. But
but it's
then
a great show.
it is a great show, and they released the season 4, so it's been out, and I binged it this week, and I gotta say it holds up. Like they didn't, because you get super afraid because like you got to know there's some studio change or something. Like I'm sure they tried to keep as many of the original people as possible, but it looks and feels like The Expanse. It doesn't change the tone and feel. I will say the lady, the Earth lady, who gets in charge near the end of season 3, the politician lady who drops F-bombs now and then. Whatever. Uh, these aren't big spoilers. The point is she swears on the show and she's hilarious. She swears a little bit more, but other than that, it just feels really good. It was a good season. I really highly recommend. All 4 seasons are up there now. You can watch them all on Prime if you have Prime Video. Highly recommend you hit that.
It will be good. I will promise you. Even though I haven't seen season 4, I will promise you it will be good, because the source material is great, and everything I have seen up to this point is great.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Well, I can't get too much into it because there will be spoilers, and I don't want to do that with it only being out a week. And you haven't read it or looked at it yet.
That being said, I actually feel better about Amazon having it, because I feel like they probably have slightly deeper pockets now. And if there was one thing, especially in the first couple seasons, that every once in a while you just got that slightly cheap sci-fi feel from it. Not often, but like every once in a while, especially if it was like an external shot of like spaceships shooting through space or something, where you're just like, this feels more like a video game than a TV show, which is kind of a sci-fi channel thing
Sure.
to me.
Though I will say they did a fantastic job on the show with that kind of stuff too. Like it really wasn't that bad. Questioning my spending habits. The one thing I love about the show that Kyle and I have also talked about, because he loves the show too, is how good they do with the physics of things, like the way the ships fly and how like the decks are actually kind of, they're not on the same plane as the ship as you would think it is as it flies, because as you're flying, the gravity is actually heading toward the back of the ship, so you're actually standing perpendicular to the direction the ship is flying, which is like they do all sorts of crazy stuff like that, which they don't really like throw in your face, but if you're really paying attention to how they've done the physics of the show with actual space flight and stuff, it's quite amazing how realistic they get with some of that.
This is where the nerdy part of me says it's not actually gravity, Adam. It's force.
Yes.
It's force
yes.
going forward and being pushed back.
Exactly that. The simulated gravity in the ship, and they have to deal with like there are 3 factions. So Mars, the Belters who work out in the asteroid belt, and Earth, and gravity is lower in the other 2 places other than Earth. So every time somebody shows up to Earth, or if there's too many G's somewhere, like how their bodies don't hold up to the gravity as well, or simulated gravity, depending on where it's at, which is super interesting. Because a lot of shows don't go that deep into it. It's just like, oh, everybody is everybody and they can always go everywhere. And this show is very much not that.
Yeah, it didn't really get into it in the TV show, but there was some characters, or a character in the TV show and in the books, who basically is from Earth. Her and her partner are from Earth, but like they were living out on a colony basically as like missionaries, for lack of a better way of saying it. And like they had a kid, and like the kid was getting to be like, I remember it, like 2 or 3 years old, and like they were like, her partner was like, I want to go back to Earth, because if we don't go back now, then our kid will never be able to go to Earth, because she'll have spent too much of her growing years out in the colonies basically, where there's no gravity, not enough gravity, and her body will just develop different, and then she can never visit like our parents and or whatever else. And it wasn't like a big point in the book, but it was just kind of like one of those casual, like, oh, this is what family decisions are like when you have this sort of like
space travel and stuff.
like, oh yeah, like even though this is where we've lived and made our home for the last few years. Like, if there's any prospect of like our child even visiting like our family and stuff at home, we need to move back, and we need to move back now.
Yeah, and the TV show does a great job of that in multiple places, and it's an amazing amount of world building that they don't throw in your face, which is nice. Like, it's definitely part of it. You see it, but it's not like they don't go out of their way with some large exposition explaining the physics behind it. Like, they don't treat you stupid. They just, you get it and you understand what's going on, and it's just part of the world, and it really helps with the world building, which I really enjoy on the show.
Yeah, you can almost tell that the whole world was designed around like an RPG manual rather than a novel. Almost.
Which I'm okay with.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Getting back to let's see, I had something down here before we move on from TV shows. Oh yeah. Why is this way down here and not up here in my notes? So I doubt you saw this, but I thought it was really interesting. I'll put the link in chat if people want to check out the interview question thing. But Henry Cavill, the guy who plays Witcher, Geralt, who was also Superman in the Adventure movies and some other things. The Justice League.
The what?
Superman and Justice League movies. He was also in the last Mission Impossible, wasn't he?
Where he had like the crazy 2-second
fight scene,
fist, whatever it was.
He was actually asked on a show by a interviewer about toxic fandom. And I thought it was interesting because the dude is totally fishing for him to come back and talk about how fans suck and things like that. Because, fans like of the source material tend to go overboard with picking apart things. And now he's playing a second very iconic character who has a cult following of source material. I don't know if you call Superman cult following, but there's a lot of people who love the comic books. There's a lot of people who love Witcher. So his characters are going to get an absorbent amount of that kind of fan hatred for not sticking to the source material. And I probably should have pulled up the transcript, but he had a fantastic answer about how they're totally in their right for loving the art they love and the characters they love, and that it's not toxicity, it's passion. And it totally put the dude back on his heels, because that interviewer was totally fishing for him to come out swinging against the fans, and he was amazing. It was one of the best answers I've ever seen an actor give on anything. So that clip's down there if anybody wants to watch kind of a breakdown of it. But it was super nice to hear him go, because I've done, all of us who are into this stuff have done it at some point. I try not to be completely militant about it, but I do tend to pick things apart if they're not true to the source material. And I don't mean true to the source material like, as a longtime comic book fan, comic books aren't true to the source material. We are used to that. But there's a spirit of the character, right? There's a spirit of that person's lore. There's some kind of established canon that, even though you may kind of go back and change some of his history or maybe update him for modern times, Spider-Man is a Spider-Man. At least he should be recognizable in such a way. Same with say Deadpool's and Superman's and Batman's. Like, what a Batman is, even if he's put in a different scene. And I think where a lot of people get labeled as toxic is they see these movie studios or TV show studios, especially if you look at some of the things like the new Teen Titans show, which I couldn't stomach, so I did not watch it. I heard the second season's gotten better. The new Batwoman CW show is god awful. But you take some of these shows, and when the fans get mad about it, everybody just calls them toxic. And it's because you took a bunch of people who don't understand the originating material and don't have any passion for it, and just have them completely destroy it. Like, they don't care that the setting's different. It's not word for word what happened in the book. It's just that the character has a certain framework it has to abide by in order for it to be the character. And when you break that, people should be allowed to complain. And he totally defends them and their passion for the characters, which I thought was amazing. So I wanted to throw that out there. Not that he'll ever hear this or anybody ever will. But Henry Cavill, cheers to you, mate. That was awesome to watch him kind of defend that. And I should have wrote this one down too, because this happened shortly afterwards. Same response from Wonder Woman. I can't remember her name.
Oh, Gal Gadot.
Yes. Same thing actually happened with her. A female interviewer was jumping in and was trying to kind of turn that into the, I don't want to get too political SJW bashing or anything on here, but she was totally trying to lead her out with this, like, hey, this is a movie for the ladies, type thing. And she's like, no, this is for everybody. This is awesome. This is men, women, everybody. Like, her response was classy. It was elegant, and it was like not exclusive. It was like, no, this is totally awesome show for everybody. Yes, young girls go watch it and be empowered, but dudes are going to love this too. Like, and we made it for them too. Like, the interviewer was trying to get her to exclude dudes and say this is like, at least that's what I read into it. Like, hey, this is for this. And she was like, no. So it was super cool to see a couple like big hitting stars, like, defend the fandom and in the process of just making a good movie for good movie's sake and not politicizing it, not like turning it into some weird thing.
It's been somewhat weird because I've seen headlines basically saying opposite things, but they seem to be coming from the same interview, which is always odd. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm going Star Wars OJ, so there you go. But like headlines of even J.J. Abrams kind of like walking the fence of like The Last Jedi, and how in some cases he refers to how like he appreciates the way Ryan Johnson, like, I have a hard time even calling him Ryan because his name is spelled. Anyways, Ryan Johnson, who, by the way, Knives Out was excellent. Great movie. Proves that the guy knows how to write good movies and how to direct good movies.
Just not Star Wars movies.
Apparently just not Star Wars movies. And it kind of comes back to that whole thing about fandom where it's like, it's not that The Last Jedi was a bad movie. I mean, there were elements of it that I would call into question as far as like
the casino scene.
Somebody on the edit room floor being like, this whole section is long and tedious and not fun. We should do something.
And does not push the plot. And
yes. But I mean, that aside, like, there are elements of that movie that, like, the part that Star Wars fans get upset with isn't the fact that he defies expectations. Is that he defies expectations and then doesn't put any effort into making them real in the universe. And like, I know it's like minor nitpicky things, but it's like, if you even think out the way some of the stuff would play out in any way, shape, or form, it just doesn't make sense. And it feels like if you just put in a little bit of effort and a little bit of time to think, oh, well, sure, we could have bombs dropping out
in
of
space.
spaceships in space. But everything we've ever seen in the Star Wars universe up to this point has been basically rockets, because that's how you have to get things from point A to point B in space. Like, it does, like, that's how it works. It's not even just a Star Wars thing, it's a like sci-fi thing. But like, this way we get to have that great shot of like the remote control that fires it, like, of all things. Like, it's not like somebody sitting up at a cockpit. No, it's a remote control falling and catching right into the person's hands as they push the button. And it's like, that's not even how it works. And then I don't want to get into it. There are countless videos that you can watch online about these things. But yes, OJ, nobody knows what a Y-wing is. Nobody anymore.
Nobody anymore. I would like to say my theory on Ryan, what's his face? I'm so bad with names. Is he was hired as a hitman. So you have The Force Awakens, which Abrams pushed out as obviously a New Hope clone because he knew he had to do fan service. or else he was going to get slaughtered.
And I will say, all things aside, there are plot points that are obviously cloned from A New Hope,
Right.
but it was a well done movie.
I liked it.
And it continues to grow on me more and more as time goes on, rather than getting worse for me.
I did not
But
hate it.
I do understand the complaints.
I did instantly, as soon as the credits rolled, I basically turned and said, that was A New Hope redone. But I also completely gave him the benefit of the doubt of the first one. I said, listen, you have to do the fan service after the prequels were so bad, right? Like, you have to bring it home. You got to give these 40-year-old neckbeard guys their Star Wars back. And that gave them their Star Wars back. I liked the characters. I was happy to see the old stuff was done well. And I really liked seeing the new characters in the new universe. Like, I was happy with that. And then I said, okay, that's out of the way. You are not allowed to do that anymore. So where do you go from there? Well, you have to kill these old tropes. And JJ probably doesn't want to do it himself because he's going to get in trouble. So what do? You hire some guy who's known but not like super known, and you have him come in and just like completely dismantle Star Wars tropes. Was it the way you should have done it? Was it the place for it? I don't know, but like, crushing the helmet and no lightsabers ever touched in the show, and like there's all these things that I feel they purposely did to like try to get away from, like, there was no X-wings after that weird scene. Like, it was just the ship and the shuttles, and like, I don't know, there's just all this weird stuff that happens that kind of break a lot of the old tropes away. And I feel they did that on purpose.
In that stuff, I don't mind any of that. In fact, like, a lot of the stuff in that movie that would go down those lines, I actually really enjoyed and appreciated. But let's just say the whole 2-hour midsection, there's probably an over exaggeration of 2 hours, but like the whole part, like the chase scene, if you will, that goes on and on and on, where this giant Imperial armada is chasing this giant rebel armada, and it goes on, and like people are leaving the convoy and coming back to the convoy, and oh no, we don't dare go to light speed and get away because they're tracking us. And it's like, God forbid we have everybody individually go to light speed in different directions at one time, and then we'll just figure out something later on, because it's much better just to be slowly shot down as we run out of gas over the decades, which is what it felt like. Decades.
So I think he did it
rather than split up. And like, there's just things like that where it's not, I understand him breaking the tropes, but you can break tropes and still have it make sense within the universe.
So that's what I think went wrong, is he wasn't a Star Wars fan from the get-go. He never really watched him. He said that openly or something like that. And so where he did break the tropes, I thought he did well. Killing Han Solo and stuff was a great scene. Like, there's gems in there that was
killing Han Solo was not Rian Johnson.
Oh, was that? That was in the first one. Never mind. Sorry.
JJ.
Got that back. Anyway, but some of the other things he did were really good. There was good gems in there, but he just didn't know how to do sci-fi. Like, so they hired him to do this Hitman piece, but then he was so bad at the other stuff, it was worse. Like, it was worse than it should have been.
Right. Like, they didn't give him the proper. They should have had him direct it. They could have even had him write it if they wanted to, but they should have had somebody in production over him that said, "Hey, guess what? This is how you produce. This is how you make a Star Wars movie," and like, let him do all the things that he wants to break the tropes, but like, be like, at the end of the day, and kind of the way Marvel does it. And I think that's why Kevin Feige, whatever his name is, Feige. I always want to throw an R in there for some reason. Feige.
Fergie's from the Black Eyed Peas.
Why they're talking about having him do a major Star Wars thing here in the future is because the thing that Marvel gets, and their movies are not perfect, but they do a good job of, every time you see a Marvel movie, it feels like a Marvel movie. And like, this didn't feel like a Star Wars movie, and that's why.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really rough. It's super rough. Yeah, I don't know. It's rough. It's like you said, there's a million videos that go into it. I I can't give the guy super excuses. I just think that he was hired as a hitman and they didn't give him any oversight so that they could throw it all under the bus and say, hey, we let him run away with this. He kind of did it. We'll bring it back. And so now you see JJ's back. Like everything's back. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how the third one goes.
That he didn't know how to make a Star Wars movie, and Kathleen Kennedy, whatever is that her name, the in charge of Lucasfilms lady, doesn't know Star Wars either. That's why she didn't care.
That might be true. That might be true.
I don't know, actually. I'm just throwing things out there because it's the internet and that's what we do, is we just throw things out there.
All right, Spectre. Anyway. I like that emote. That's pretty good. Yo, so today Twitch launched, this won't help you if you're watching this later on YouTube, but they launched channel points. So if you're watching, you accrue channel points. I set them really low to be able to buy emotes. So as you accrue points, you can spend them down underneath the chat window. I rebranded them New Yen, which is like the Shadowfall, like cyberpunk currency, because I'm all about that stuff. Yeah. But if you click on them, if you spend 200 points, you can get a random emote, or you can wait just for 300 and pick the one you want. And then it'll let you pick some of my emotes. My emotes are fun. I like them. I'm just trying to unlock as many as I can. If you like the emotes, you want to support the channel, drop one of those Twitch primes and follow and all that kind of stuff. Just a reminder at this point, since we're a good hour in, we are recording this and these do go up on YouTube. The link is in the panels below to the channel. So we will have it up tonight so that you can rewatch them.
All unlocked.
Are you Prime sub? If you're a sub, you have them unlocked already. But for people who just want to play around with the subs, the sub emotes, but don't want to necessarily throw the sub at me or can't yet, whatever it is, it's all good. But you're allowed to play with them. We'll come up with some fun things later with the channel points for higher amounts. Maybe things that could be spent during the podcast. I don't know. I know some people, like, if you spend 8,000 points, they'll make you like art. A streamer that I am in a community with, I spent 8,000. He made me some art. It was pretty cool. Not saying I'm going to do that because I can't give you art because I can't art.
You're not an art.
Yeah. So there's that. Follow any of the other links down there too for social media. We'll announce when we're having more episodes. We do these episodes every other week right now. I don't know if we're going to do this on stream, but
sequence, we may have to switch a few things around. But
maybe the next one's on the 30th. So I don't know if you're doing anything on the 30th, but that'd be the next one. I'm free.
Driving to Virginia.
Okay. So we'll see. We might skip the one over the holiday break, which would put.
We could do it Sunday night instead of Monday.
We could do that. We'll talk about it offline.
We'll figure it
out. I'm sure you guys don't care about that. But yeah, so hour in, we got through all that stuff.
You know what? That means it's perfect timing for me to bring up my thing.
Yeah.
Guess what? One of the things I want to talk about was freaking Wonder Woman 84 trailer. And I know you don't watch very many trailers, but
I watched that one.
Isn't it amazing looking?
Fantastic.
It gives zero plot whatsoever, but it looks like the freaking world, and it's 1984, and I love it.
I absolutely want to watch it. I love the first one. I thought it was great. It was the only thing that DC's put out that was like just top notch. I also had that on my list of trailers that I did go out and watch. And I thought that was one of the best trailers I've seen for anything that's coming out soon. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. DC's got it. Like, more of that, please. Because I want them both. Like, yes. I think if you characterize us, you're more DC, I'm more Marvel, but we both like both books. It's fine.
Yep.
I love everything Marvel's been doing. I want DC to do cool stuff. The only thing I don't like about DC is Superman. I have never liked Superman. I don't want to like Superman. I think he ruins everything from a storytelling perspective because he's basically God on Earth. And how do you write stories for that? With that power creep?
Very smartly.
Well, you have to take his powers away or something. Like there's always some weird thing you got to write in.
I would like to point out that I have not yet read any of them because I've been horrible with comic reading, but I am very much looking forward to sitting down and reading Brian Michael Bendis's run on Superman, because I think there have been a lot of people who have written him well, especially in the last 10, 15 years. But I like Brian Michael Bendis because he manages to be very much a company man, but he does it in a way that's slightly different and just, it's good.
I should get a hold of that. I would like to try it. I like to find good Superman stories if I can find them, but they always end up at the same thing with, oh, you know, I can just do whatever because I'm Superman. And it's like, oh, well, I love Batman because, you know, he's obviously he always wins at the end. He's Batman, but like you feel some level of he's a human in a rubber suit with gadgets. Like he's got to work for his wins. Even like Spider-Man, who's probably my all-time favorite, is the same thing, right? Like, yes, he has superpowers, but he's not omnipotent in any way, shape, or form, and he always has to work for his wins. And that's what gives you a good story, is that struggle, that relatable struggle to this, especially the Marvel stuff, where like, I know that DC has gotten to that stuff, but originally it was like Spider-Man was the first one to really have like a life where things just weren't going well. You know, he had to struggle both as a hero and as a person. So that's what I really like about those. But I would love to see some good DC stuff. I would love to see, even if it is Superman, as much as I don't like him as a character.
Well, somewhat ironically, I don't know if it's the same interview, but as part of like his Witcher stuff, Henry Carville, I am horrible with names as well. But he also was quoted recently as saying like he still wants to do a good Superman movie.
I think that was the same interview, because wasn't the guy asking him about the Snyder Cut, and he's like, I don't know if that exists.
Yeah,
but he would still play
Snyder Cut. Yeah.
I saw, if it's not the same interview, I saw both of them then, but yes, that's one of the reasons, not to circle back to The Witcher again, but that's one of the reasons I'm hopeful, because The Witcher is kind of almost a pet project for him. Like he wanted to be on that show, and he seems to care about the characters he plays. And I'll admit, he was a good Superman. He's a really good Superman. It's just the movies are wrapped around him were not great.
That's fair. I will say I am not a huge Snyder Cut person when it comes to Justice League, but if it did exist, I would be very interested to see it. Just simply
I want to watch it.
Whether you like Man of Steel, Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice, Justice League, like the first two, whether you loved them or hated them, like they at least had a solid feel and story that went together with them. And then Justice League came out, and there were like pieces of conclusions to all of those first, or both of those first two movies that Snyder made, but there were just pieces, and then you could feel like the Josh Whedon / studio just going like, no, we're not. And it's like it turned into like this movie that wasn't one or the other. It was just, oh.
Yep.
And yeah, it wasn't Avengers, but it also wasn't like the conclusion to all the Snyder stuff. And I think it would have been better served to just keep the Snyder vision rather than trying to take Snyder's work and twisting it. Now, I'm not saying this. I think Snyder was perfect for all the DC stuff, and I think that DC probably put themselves back a decade by having him be the guy running all of their movies when they were first doing the push. But it is what it is.
I see why they did it with his previous successes, but he's just too dark.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of
for
like
Justice League.
His previous successes really weren't anything, I think, that would point towards him being good at that. Like maybe a Batman movie, but like,
I think he could have done a Batman movie.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine.
I agree. But Superman was not a great choice for him to start with. Like, I do think Man of Steel is a good movie, and I think it's better than most people. I think of the Snyder three, I think it is the best one by far.
I would agree with that. Dark for the
and,
win. I like dark stuff. That's not the problem. It's just the context of where you put that dark stuff. Like
Superman as a character is not, by nature, he's not dark by nature he's like bright and in front of everybody.
He's a Boy Scout.
And like the Superman that we got was not really that. Like the closest thing we got to that was Superman in like the last 20-30 minutes of Justice League, which meh.
Except for in his dark days. He did have a black suit for a while.
And long curly hair.
That's true. So circle that background. Wonder Woman. Yes, I absolutely want to watch it. I think it looks fantastic. I liked the first one. Can't wait for the next one. Along the same lines of female protagonists superhero movies, did you watch the trailer for Black Widow?
Yes, I did see that as well.
I also think that looks pretty good. I don't think it looks as good as Wonder Woman, but I thought it looked pretty good.
It definitely will be a slightly different Marvel movie. Well, it won't be different. It'll be different in the sense that it's an Avenger in a movie that's not crazy over the top. And we don't really know how over the top it is or isn't going to be. But it just from the trailer, it feels like it's a little more reserved. But then it also like cuts in pictures of like
skydiving
through falling
metal
debris. So I mean, who knows? But she is kind of a Batman-esque sort of character, for lack of a better way of saying it, where like she is one that doesn't have superpowers. Like she's just well trained and has gadgets and like kind of is what it is.
I'm excited to see it. I love that the cop from Stranger Things is in like everything now. He's everywhere, and his character looked fantastic to add just that tinge of comedy to the show.
Every Marvel movie must have.
Actually, I'm going to segue right there. Did you watch the new Hellboy? Because I have it, and I started it, and I didn't finish it. Like I didn't even get through like the intro, and I don't know why. Everybody says it's terrible.
I've heard that. I've still not watched it. I was almost going to watch it on a plane in the last few months, and then I was like, I think I have other things I can do with my time.
That is 100% no joke. Exactly what I did. I had it downloaded on my phone with a bunch of other stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm just on the plane. I'll rip through this. And I didn't do it. And I moved on to other things. I started, I'm like, I'm already bored.
But I think it's sad when you're on a plane and you have nothing else to do and you're just like, you know, this movie isn't worth my time.
It's to me, I am a 100% fanboy of the first two movies, the Del Toro ones, or whatever his name is. Like, I love Ron both Perlman. Those movies. Well, Ron Perlman played the director.
Del Toro.
Yeah, whatever.
Geez, something Del Toro.
We're really good at this.
The guy who made Pacific Rim.
Yes. Which the second one is awful. BT Dubs.
I haven't seen that one. He did not make that one.
He did not, and it shows. It's awful. The first Pacific Rim is awesome. Pacific Rim. Pan's Labyrinth was his first big movie.
But not his first movie, just his first big movie.
Yeah, that was the one that kind of put him on the map.
Blade 2, which I think was before Pan's Labyrinth.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
That was his first blockbuster movie.
Wow.
Which is the one that everybody says was the good Blade movie, but I disagree. I think the first one was the best by far.
Yeah.
And I didn't really love the second one. It was not horrible like the third one, but it was not as good.
What do we say no to, Spectre? Just throw nose out? No. You're wrong.
Probably because of negative E plus A. Or wait, is that an E or an upside down A? Never mind.
Anyway, I forgot how I said you just said it. Hellboy, yeah. Go back and watch those original ones. They're amazing. James Bond. Did you watch that trailer?
Yes, that's the other one on my list of things.
Go.
I'm just like, I want to watch this. I want to watch it, and it will be amazing.
I also want to watch it. I think it looks fun.
I think the fact that I know Daniel Craig is just sick of being James Bond, and like you can see points in the preview even where he's just kind of like, and like you can tell that like it's his character, but it's also just Daniel Craig being like, oh my god, I just have to make it through one more of these.
I feel like that's Harrison Ford for the last 20 years of his existence
Well,
and everything he's
like, you
played.
mean I have to still work and act to keep my livelihood the way I want? God damn it.
Especially this character again. Fuck. Yeah, I think it looks good. I'm excited to see it. I love all the James Bond movies. I think they're campy and silly as hell, and I'm excited to see another one. I think Daniel Craig's been a fantastic James Bond.
Yes, I agree. It, it's a combination of him being a fantastic James Bond and also the James Bond franchise turning a very sharp corner when he came on.
Yeah,
Like the difference between the final Pierce Brosnan one, which was at the end of the world or whatever, the one with like the igloo ice
I want to
hotel
say
or
it was the
whatever.
ice one with Halle
Yeah,
Berry.
which was just so over the top and so
It's so
just.
good though. It's
I
so
mean,
good.
it was good, but it
No,
was
it's not.
like
It's so bad.
it was bad. Like exactly like of his movies, like GoldenEye was like the perfect like I'm gonna come in and be suave
Yeah,
James
Goldeneye was
Bond
great.
with a relatively young Pierce Brosnan, whatever his name
Brosnan.
is, and like there were campy parts to it as most James Bond movies have, but like
Die
it
Another
was
Day.
good, especially for a '90s movie. Like it was amazing. And then as like we went through the '90s into like the mid to late 2000s, like well mid 2000s, like Pierce Brosnan's movies, and it's not his fault because it's just the direction, the production of the company, everything went, but it's like just kept getting like jankier and just like gratuitous this over the top of that, and it's fun and it's like I don't hate it, but then suddenly Casino Royale comes out and it's like holy crap, this is like a serious action espionage movie, and it, like I say serious lately because espionage where the main spy is known by everybody in every situation he walks into is not that serious of an espionage movie,
Right.
but it was like a serious action movie with like real stakes. It felt like there were
Some
real
grit
stakes.
to it, which felt
Yeah,
awesome.
some grit and some real stakes, which most James Bond movies have stakes, but it really feels like Austin Powers level stakes sometimes, where it's like, this laser shoot them from the moon or something.
Yeah, I was like, Spectre's just trolling now. I still love the original movies with like
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery's great. Like,
And I even love Roger Moore with his like just I don't really do things. I just talk and act with the ladies around. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you haven't watched them, I think they're all worth a watch, especially the Daniel Craig ones. Like, if you don't want to pick up and do the whole 40 years of James Bond or whatever they've been out for, I do the newer ones. They're really good if you like just good action flicks.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I recently rediscovered by opening the app for the first time in like 6 months that Pluto TV has a continual streaming James Bond channel.
What is Pluto TV?
Well, you don't know what Pluto TV is.
I do not
My
know what Pluto.
goodness.
I do not know what Pluto TV is.
Uh, it is a streaming, basically a free streaming cable type app for smart TVs and or your web browser. And basically when it opens the app up, it's just like you have one channel kind of streaming in the corner and then a guide that you can click through all the different channels. And almost none of them are legitimate channels whatsoever. I mean, they are legitimate in the sense that like they have the rights to use them and to stream them, and then like they sell advertising, so you have commercial breaks and stuff like that in it. But they are by no means what most people would consider to be like true cable slash satellite level channels.
It's like 24 hours of Star Trek, the original series or whatever.
Pretty much, it's like there are different channels of different things. Like there is my
I've seen
two
some of
of
these
my favorite
services
channels.
before, but they weren't so legitimate. So this one's actually like on the up
This
and up.
one's actually
Okay.
legitimate on the up and up, and like they sell the advertising, and like they have legitimate channels who have like specific Pluto streams that they give them. So like there's like 2 or 3 MTV like sub channels that they stream. Like they have a lot of live news from like CNN and NBC and CBS, basically all like the big regular channels have like news streams that they stream on Pluto. My two favorite channels are the Mystery Science Theater 3000 channel and the Riff Tracks channel that just plays non-stop Mystery Science Theater 3000 of Riff Tracks movies. But yeah, one of their channels is a James Bond 24/7 channel where they just continually play through all of the James Bond movies, at least all the old ones. I don't know if they play the newest ones or not, but which is pretty fantastic and also relevant.
I forgot to post this to Facebook.
I did.
Oh, okay.
Not forget.
Good. Nice. Oh, hey, look at that. Well, I also posted it. You're better at this than I am, apparently.
Yeah, maybe.
I put it out everywhere else.
There. I just linked y'all some Pluto TV.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out. Right into Christmas.
Pluto TV, if you're listening, support our live Twitch channel. Give us money. We'll continue to advertise for you.
Yes, that.
All I have to say about that.
Oh my goodness.
Hack the planet.
Hack the planet. Spectre, thanks for the host. I appreciate it, brother.
Thanks what? I'm so confused.
What's that?
Nothing. I think my chat is just slow.
Oh. Hack the planet. I love that I finally got those sounds working. All my sounds for notifications when people host me, follow me, sub are all from Hackers, the movie, because 100% obsessed with that movie.
Did you ever, you gonna do the podcast?
I want to.
By the
I
minute?
want to so bad. It is still on the docket somewhere, somehow.
One day.
One day. I'm getting better at this stuff, so I think I have a lot more comfort to do it. I think the only thing holding me back right now is, so the reason I wanted to try this format with you here is that there's no editing. We're just going to do it live. Fuck it. Let's do it live. As Bill would say. And then we're just going to throw it out there and say, hey, there you go. And the problem,
one day when we feel like we're legitimate, then we'll switch.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or not.
I actually kind of like this format. I think it's okay. To have a live chat, and if it grows, then we can interact with the chat, we can have our back and forth. It's fine. I think this format's perfectly good. With highlight messages, just wanted to say it still feels spent on stream.
OJ, you can buy a really nice used car for the amount of money that you spent on all of stuff.
Oh, that
you could have flown to Europe probably twice.
Stir the knife.
Do you ever want to go to Australia? Because this is how you don't go to Australia.
Maybe you can sell your.
I'm done now.
Maybe you can sell your Steam library to somebody.
Selling a Steam account for anyone interested.
Low price of like $5,000. Recoup most of that. I bet you could.
Guys, I'm just gonna throw this out there because I'm still on things that right now. If you go on to Pluto, don't right now. Actually, never mind. But Sharknado 2 is playing on the Rift Tracks channel. So
after this, don't click off now.
Not right now. Not right now. Also, they have an entire Wipeout channel. It just plays the horrible obstacle course thing. Yeah.
The what was the redubbed Japanese show?
The thing that Wipeout was the Americanized version.
Yeah. X something or other.
Yeah, I don't.
No, was it MDX? I don't think it was. That doesn't sound right. Maybe it was.
It may have been MDX.
That show, first time I ever watched it. This is a ridiculous kind of story.
That is a model of an Acura.
I was gonna say, I think that's a car. Show MXC. You were close. MXC, which is I don't know a ton about it other than it was a Japanese obstacle course
challenge,
and the announcers were always dressed up in these crazy get-ups, really silly. Somebody taken that in the States, brought it over, got rights to it and just dubbed over it with American voices, pretending they had no idea what was actually going on. They just recut and voiced over everything. You could just tell it was two dudes. Even the female voices they were redubbing. Just side-splittingly funny. Like, it was just the stupidest stuff you could ever bring in. And not to make it a little bit morbid, but the first time I ever watched the show, I was coming home from a pretty heavy funeral. Like, an aunt died. Not like an aunt died. An aunt died. And it was a heavy day, like really heavy day, you know, and we just got home and we settled in, and I went in my room and I had my old CRT TV in my room with like just basic cable plugged into it.
As everybody born in the early 80s had in their bedroom.
Yeah, this would have been in the 90s or whatever, I guess, or early 2000s. I don't remember. Like super early if that was the case. Regardless, I come home, I go crash in my room like I just want to like decompress, and I just turn the channel on. It happens to be on Spike or whatever the heck was playing that, or I don't remember. It was Comedy Central. I don't remember.
It's probably Spike.
5 minutes later, I'm laughing so hard that I'm like crying, and like just like it was the total distraction I needed. And I love that show to death. Every time I've ever been able to watch it, I just sit there and watch it. It's 100% hilarious. If you can go find some old episodes of it, you should watch it, because Wipeout is garbage compared to that show. I like watching Wipeout because I think it's funny when people get punched in the face on like when they put themselves in that situation.
Foam spinning things.
Yes. But it's really, I can only watch for a minute and then I get bored. But I can watch MXC for days. Like, I just won't look away. It's hilarious.
I will say they have a fail army channel, which is just full of the dumbest crap. But like when you just need to just sit down and just laugh
Watch
at
people fail,
stupid, it's quite hilarious.
I think for the next 40 minutes, we should just go through the guide and you tell us what's playing.
You know what's playing on Pluto.
Pluto, pay us for this.
Give us your money. We're supporting you.
I'm guessing your model doesn't bring in a whole lot of money, but if you got any laying around, we'll add for you.
It's got to bring in something.
Vin Diesel Bloodshot. I don't know what that is.
Bloodshot is Valiant?
Oh yeah. Sorry, he is playing Bloodshot. Yes.
Wait, they're actually making a
Bloodshot
movie?
Yep, I heard that. I also heard that. Was it Valiant or Image? I feel like that was Image.
Valiant, but it might have been Image.
I don't remember.
There's one way to find out.
Google it up. Google foo.
Oh, it was definitely originally Valiant. Although it might be
Valiant then.
It may have went to.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm pretty much pro Vin Diesel because he just makes ridiculously silly stuff that I'm okay with watching.
I would like to note that I was officially correct.
Okay.
Valiant.
I don't even know why I would challenge. I'm okay with that. I don't know a lot about Bloodshot. I remember the book being out. I may even have. I mean, in fact, I think I have some copies of Bloodshot somewhere, but I've never read them. Surprise.
He was one of the, like, I didn't really read him much either, but I remember him being one of the, like, Valiant characters that people respect and like some reason. But, yeah.
Burning my comics would make me sad. Troll power. I got some comics to talk about. I went and pulled some and actually read through them just to make sure it was okay to talk about them at the end. But before we get off trailers, I have one left. You cut out again there. Ryan, our production values are going down. Get your internet under control.
I would like to say that my screen shows none of these issues because
they're there. Well, if you can hear me, the new Ghostbusters trailer.
Oh, I have not.
I can't hear you, so that's fine. Everything's fine. Your screen is wrong. Tell your roommates to stop downloading prawn or whatever they're doing. So the new Ghostbusters trailer, I saw this drop and I was like, oh, what is this garbage? I'll watch this. Actually looks amazing. I think it looks absolutely amazing. I am super excited. Another Stranger Things throwback because the main boy there from Stranger Things is playing Bankman's grandson. So this is sometime in the future. Nobody's seen ghosts for a long time from my understanding. They don't believe in it anymore. Like it's already kind of what happened in New York doesn't really exist because everybody's kind of either grown up or it's just been forever. And it kind of goes through this kid kind of rediscovering his grandpa. It sounds like they were a little estranged from him, but he goes through and kind of rediscovers what his grandpa did back then and some of his old stuff, and some hijinks, ghostbustering ensues, and I think it looks really good. The trailer looks fantastic to me. You probably got to shut that Pluto TV off. It's taking up all your.
Oh, it's not that. At least my download is fine. I'm shooting 40 to 50, which
it looks better now.
Of course, because I'm doing a speed test now, and everybody knows the internet gets better when you do a speed test.
Fixes your internet.
Fixes everything.
So I highly recommend you take a look at the trailer for Ghostbusters because I think it looks fantastic. At least way better than my expectations was going into watching the trailer.
I didn't have a lot of fear with it because I felt like the studio at least had kind of learned their lesson with the last one, where they were like,
complete departure from that, like completely walks away from it, like that didn't happen, sorry. Retcon. We're gonna go back this way. I think this was the one that Dan Aykroyd was involved with.
Yeah.
If you watch him on the Joe Rogan show, he has a really interesting talk about his where he kind of came up with a lot of the story for Ghostbusters, because he was one of the primary writers of the story, and it was because they had an old haunted like farmhouse, and most of this takes place in a farmhouse. So I think this is like calling back to some of his inspiration of where he actually came up with a lot of the story. So I'm excited to see that. I think it looks fantastic. It is not trying to be the original Ghostbusters at all, which I think is super good, because anybody who is an original Ghostbusters fan knows that was lightning in a bottle. You cannot do that again. Like, it will never happen. Those old late 70s, early 80s comedians and their timing and the way that they work together, like, that is never going to happen again. So if you want to expand the universe or continue it, like, that's fine, but you got to take a different tone, and that's okay, as long as you are, faithful to the source material, like we started a lot of these conversations with. And I think it absolutely looks amazing.
What the New Mutants movie is, Spectre, is the unwanted adopted stepchild of Fox going to Disney. That's what the New Mutants movie is. It also has been completely redone now, so almost anything that has to do with mutants and X-Men has been removed from it, which makes it maybe not even close to being the movie that it was supposed to be. I was actually really excited about the ideas of what they had for the New Mutants. That movie was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, #1, which is sad that it's still not out at this point and may not come out.
Was New Mutants Rob Liefeld?
It was where Rob Liefeld got his start.
Yeah.
When he created Cable and all that good stuff.
Deadpool. I don't know if it was
his start, but it was like his beginnings of taking off. Originally it was just the next generation of mutants, that were a new X book that didn't replace the X-Men. And then it had like 100-issue run, and towards the end of that run, Rob Liefeld jumped in, introduced Cable, and basically Cable was like, I'm your new daddy. You're going to follow me. We're going to do stuff. And then it transformed from New Mutants into X-Force.
Yep.
And basically all of these fresh generation kids very quickly got turned into warrior army machine people and completely changed the dynamics of everything. But the movie like what I've heard and read about it is like it's actually based on legitimate New Mutants to classic storylines, where the New Mutants definitely had more of a, I wouldn't call it horror outright in the sense that not really any comics are outrightly horror for the most part. Like there are a few, but most of your genre ones are, they like dabble in it here and there, but don't really live there. But they were one of the primary comics in which like the Nightmare King was like one of the main bad guys. And this is supposed to be relating to that. And it introduces all of the classic New Mutants characters like Cannonball and Wolfsbane, and there's in Sunspot. Those are the only three I usually remember. There was the Indian girl, Native girl, I should probably say. And oh, Paige. No, wait, Paige wasn't part of that one. But
Yes, Patrick Stewart is in what looks like a god awful movie. The Charlie Angels looks really bad.
I don't think it's in the theaters anymore. The last time I looked at the
Straith with the 2-viewer raid. Thank you. Welcome to the stream. This is our semi-weekly or semi-monthly, I would podcast episode where me and Ryan sit down and just talk nerdy things that we love. We go from 9 to 11, so there's about a half hour left inside this podcast. So welcome to jump in and chat. Welcome Root Beer Float, which sounds delicious right now, actually. Thanks, Straith, for the raid. Oh, and thank you for the follow, Root Beer. That's fantastic. I think we have a hacker. So welcome. Right now we are kind of walking through our movie portion of our podcast where we're talking about some fun trailers that we just seen. We talked about Wonder Woman, Black Widow, Ghostbusters, James Bond, some bad looking ones too, like apparently New Mutants, Bloodshot, and the new Charlie's Angels movie, which looks terrible. Speaking of Picard, or Patrick Stewart, have you seen the trailers for Picard, the Star Trek show?
I saw like the one that came out a while back that really didn't show much of anything other than Patrick Stewart being old.
You didn't see the one with the samurai Vulcan then?
No.
That looks interesting. Star Wars, yeah, we talked a lot about Star Wars earlier. We are probably the next show we do will be after Star Wars comes out this Thursday. Looks like Star Wars comes out this Thursday. Yep. So I assume we will see, both of us will have seen that before the next show, and we will probably spend an absorbent amount of time loving and bitching about Star Wars. We did a little bit of that today.
You already have my tickets and seats reserved for Sunday afternoon.
Nice.
In IMAX, so
don't do it. No, I'm going to go watch it. I'm going to take my son. He's seen all the new 3 because I think that's a big deal for him. Yeah, well, he will have seen all the new 3. Yes, I'm going to make sure he does that because that was something. I was born just at the end of the original trilogy, so we didn't really get to see those, at least not when they first came out. I did go back and see them when they were like replayed later, but oh man, he's bringing it back up. Oh, yeah, we spent a bunch of time talking about how the Last Jedi was super terrible. Though, if you are a super Star Wars fan and you're not watching The Mandalorian, we hit that up last week a little bit. The last 6th episode is now out, and my goodness, that show is so good. I love that show to death. I think it's the best thing Star Wars has put out since Last Jedi. It's
since The Last Jedi,
or since Return of the Jedi.
That thing that's come out.
No,
since the last bad thing they put out.
Yeah, no. Since Return of the Jedi, since the original trilogy, I think it is. It's got the spirit. It got the feel. It's so good. There's a little bit of fan service in it that kind of drives me nuts, like going back to Tatooine in one of the episodes, but it was fine. They handled it really well, so it was okay. It was really nice. Thanks a lot for stopping in, Root Beer. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. have a good night. In a couple weeks or whenever we'll have another one of these. Maybe you can stop in and bitch about Star Wars together. It's a valid complaint, but they had to do some fan service. The ATST Walker in the one episode I thought was a little weird. There's just
There's only one way to take and steal a bunch of krill, and that is by taking an ATSD and marching it out
on a backwater planet that has zero infrastructure. But the latest episode, there really wasn't a lot of that at all. It really was super good. And if you don't know, Bill Burr is in it. He plays one of the characters, and I was really scared of that because I like Bill Burr a lot. A big fan, but he is not really an actor, and he's Bill Burr, and he is Bill Burr in the episode, but they keep it toned down enough that it doesn't really distract, which is super nice. Yeah, I like that it was abandoned tech too. It just was like in a weird place for me. I love it. I'm not bitching about it. I love everything about the show. I don't want them to change a thing.
There is a part of me, and granted, I don't really understand the new timeline all that well, but it feels like The Mandalorian is very close to the end of Return of the Jedi, where the Empire is still very much functional, and it feels like if it was like during like the new trilogy,
it's before
that there's like not ancient, but like 30, 40-year-old abandoned Empire tech, but it feels like it's a little soon to have a ton of that at this point.
No, this is, from what I understand, is right after Return of the Jedi type of thing, and definitely before the new trilogy.
Definitely.
But I like it. It feels really good.
Very cool. Very cool.
I haven't watched any of the Rise of Skywalker trailers because I know I'm going to go watch it. So 5 years after. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's not too far
that timing makes perfect sense.
So basically, right when the original Thrawn trilogy of books was supposed to happen, way to rub that in my face, Lucasfilms.
Thrawn was the blue guy, right?
Yeah, the Chiss.
Didn't they put him in Rebels?
Yes.
The Disney DX show. Didn't they put Thrawn in there?
His character has made his way into current continuity, but
the fake leaks.
OJ, we don't talk about leaks on this show.
Rebels. Yeah, I watched all Rebels. I've not watched the newer show. I've watched some of it, just not. I liked Rebels.
I have not, but I have many things I have not watched.
Rebels is definitely worth a watch. I hope they're fake. Well, I don't know. I know that they were doing some fake the story about the one dude leaving the script in the hotel and ended up on eBay, but they got it back before anybody took any pictures of it or like whatever. It sounded like a lot of fake drama to like hype up fans because from what I understand, they're feeling the pressure because there's not a ton of fan hype for this one like they normally have, which fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I will say,
I don't think you have to watch Clone Wars first. There is some
carryover.
There is definitely some carryover when Sokka or whatever her name shows up. Spoilers. So if you watched through Clone Wars, Anakin gets.
You're going to tell me Darth Maul shows back up.
He does. Anakin gets a Padawan, but it's not like. I don't think there's enough there that you would have to watch Clone Wars first. There's a couple episodes where that stuff kind of gets referenced back, but you really don't need to watch it. Clone Wars is worth watching through. I mean, there's a ton of filler episodes that really don't drive the story forward at all, which drive me nuts. but the meaty stories inside a Clone Wars cartoon was pretty good.
Why bother going back to watch it when you can just wait for the new season to come out in a post-LucasArts era and just watch that and pretend like the first half didn't exist?
We could do that. You like that meat? I sure do. Star Wars meat for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was not fantastic, but I enjoyed what I didn't regret watching, I guess is what I'm saying. And as we talked about last episode, we all regret not getting the Samurai Jack versions of Clone Wars.
I don't know what it was OJ didn't want to hear.
That they're making a new Clone Wars. I think that's what you were talking about.
Oh yeah, they're making like one last season of it.
Yeah.
Disney Plus.
Do not want. Please walk away. Go away.
Doesn't matter because all of the Clone Wars TV show will just be second best to the Glendy, Tarkovsky, whatever Clone Wars animated thing that came out on Cartoon Network first.
Right, the Samurai Jack ones.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, more of that. Bring him back and redo the whole thing in that style.
The one iteration of Grievous that actually made him a badass.
Yeah.
Instead of a complete utter fool.
Yep. So that's mostly movie. I haven't really watched any movies recently. I didn't think what was the last movie I watched. Back to the Future.
Wow. I have been watching movies, but I honestly can't remember most of the things I've seen recently. I saw Jumanji this weekend.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the last one was fun. This one was also fun. They changed it up enough that it kind of worked, but it was still just kind of felt like a retread in a lot of ways of what we did the first time around, or well, the second time around. But it was fun. Like, it's probably, if you took your family to see the last one, you'd probably take them to this one and they'd have just as good of a time.
I like the last one. The original is God tier. I really liked it. With Robin Williams.
Was a movie. I have a lot of weird movies that freaked me out as in my younger days, and that was one of them.
Fair enough. It's a bit intense at times. It's almost laughable now. Some of the CG does not hold up in a HD world.
It's believable, but it was never like the visualization that freaked me out. And like movies that freaked me out were movies that made me like imagine what it would be like to just be stuck someplace for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah,
reason. That's just like what freaked me out. Like oh, okay, you're ruining my ideas of what the universe can and cannot be, and now I believe I can get sucked into a hole and never escape, and it will be the end of everything. Hence my hatred of the Labyrinth.
Fair enough. That's bright. But you're wrong. Labyrinth is great.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware of that.
I haven't really watched anything. Star Wars Resistance is the other show that I have not watched. Or I've watched like the first. I guess I've watched 10 episodes of it.
Yep, the Labyrinth. The bane of my childhood existence.
That's so sad because it's one of the greatest movies ever.
Oh, I saw it so many times it's not even funny. But not Pans.
No, the old Jim Henson movie. Yeah.
So let me just clarify. The part about that movie that ceaselessly freaked me out was the part where she got trapped in the replica of her own bedroom, like probably like 2/3 of the way through the movie.
With the Judge Dredd comics. You ever notice that on her shelf behind her head in her room is a series of Judge Dredd like trades?
No, because at this point in the movie, the last thing I'm thinking about is what is on her bedroom behind her head. All this to say, as like a 7-year-old or however old I was at the time when I watched this, I was like, holy crap. What if this very living room that I am in watching this movie right now is not my real living room? And what if I just didn't know? What if I was trapped in some horrible place where all I had to do was leave? but I didn't know I could leave because I thought it was home and this is where I should be. And then, you know, I have a small child like crisis of reality and
Your existential crisis.
my
You realize
existential
this is
crisis.
all a simulation, right? Like our entire existence is a
The whole thing,
simulation.
the whole thing, absolutely. I've become much more comfortable. Let's just say, by the time The Matrix and The Truman Show came out, I was like,
You
okay,
were
I
okay.
got it. I
You
got
got.
this.
I sent you a link that shows the picture of her, the Judge Dredd. Like it's a big, thick Judge Dredd book, which seems so out of place for that character.
That is very interesting and not at all what you would expect to be on that show.
I don't remember where I saw that, but sometime I never noticed that myself, but somebody mentioned it, and so I went back and looked it up. I was like, damn, Judge Dredd. I'm impressed. That is not a comic book for normal teenage girls, I guess.
Connection. Lana Headey played Mama in Dread 2012. Excellent movie.
So,
speaking of characters that don't take their helmets off, Judge
what's
Dredd
that? Oh, yes.
and the Mandarin.
And oh well, you know what's actually that's a psychotically good segue for what I'm about to do next. So I wanted to go through some of my collection and talk about some comic books that I recommended since we're getting pretty close to the end of this thing. And another character that never takes his helmet off for the same thing. So if you know who Brandon Smalls is, I get that right, Brendan Smalls. He is the creative mind behind some things like Home Movies and Metalocalypse. He puts out Metalocalypse is obviously done. If you've never watched Metalocalypse, you are failing because it's so good. And as a metalhead, I love it to death. But he actually writes the music for the show. He toured as the band. I got to watch them live one time. Actually, Steven went with me to that, which was really fun. They played with Mastodon and Between the Buried and Me and or no, Between the Buried and Me, it doesn't matter. But they headlined the show, so I got to watch them tour live. It was super good. And so he created a new album called Galakiton, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Probably not. That's okay.
And it's a space opera metal album, concept album. And for the first album, they actually did a 5-part series comic book, which I ended up having. I had to call a comic book store and they had to find it because it wasn't like on their normal list of things to buy. But I have all 5 books here, and I read through them, and they're pretty good. It's pretty good. It's about basically a space hero who, is super famous. Kind of almost, they don't really explain a lot, which I kind of like in books and in TV shows where they don't like just spell everything out. But you kind of get that he's almost like a demigod level character, and he's kind of like a intergalactically known space hero, but he never takes his helmet off, very much like the Mandalorian and very much like Judge Dredd. It's always on. Like they make actually fun of it in the show several times where his wife hasn't even really seen him who he's going through a divorce, and it's all about this divorce, and his arch nemesis gets loose. It's a fun book if you're looking for something a little different. If you can find these, there's probably digital forms of them out there, but if you're looking for something different, and the album that goes with it, if you like kind of progressive metal concept rock opera type stuff, the 2 albums that go with it are really worth the listen. The albums are probably better than these books, but the books are a lot of fun. And it was something different I wanted to bring to the show.
I should like to point out that I still have not seen Dark World, but it's on my list, my giant list of things I need to watch.
What's Dark World?
The Matrix before the Matrix, apparently.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that. Was it a show or a movie?
I believe it's a movie. Like I've heard of it. I've just not seen it. Dark City. Yeah.
Dark City. I will go look that up right after the show. Keith or Sutherland? That doesn't give me a lot of hope. Not that he's bad. It's not bad. It's just, yeah. I'm out of water now. I blame you entirely.
This is my comic selection.
Oh, heck yeah. Some Bone.
Bone is amazing. and it is basically sold as a children's book, but it is not. It is basically a giant fairy tale of excellence. I personally own the 3-part hardcover color edition, which I found this one randomly in a Walmart. Apparently,
A Walmart.
apparently when I was living in Canada, I found it in a Walmart because it is only made by Scholastic Canada. And so I went around searching for years for books 2 and 3. Like you can get the single volume version of it here in the States, but these are so like the single volume, which is like this big. And
Wow.
it's just such a pain in the butt to like read through.
Read through it, yeah.
But I managed to, once I found out that it was a Canadian print, that they had the 3 separate volumes, I managed to track down 2 of them online for really decent price too. Like the cover price for this is only $27 Canadian, which is like nothing.
You are worthless, Canada.
I mean, with exchange rates, that's like $18 or something, which for a hardcover collection of like,
especially that big,
this thick, like, I mean, that's nothing. But I tracked down the other 2, and like it is like it was originally released in individual issues in black and white, just like over years worth. And a while back, Scholastic basically bought the rights to print them, and so they've been releasing them in like thinner soft cover volumes, and it was the first time they did a color edition. And you can find the collections of it in color, which is really nice too. But it's just like, it's one of those things where it's a very deep fairy tale type story with humor that blends into adult humor that, like, if you're an adult reading it, you can really enjoy it and get a lot out of it. But at the same time, like, the storytelling is done in a way, it's kind of like a lot of like Pixar movies where like adults can get a lot out of it, but it's still kind of aimed at children at the same way.
Sure.
So as a lifelong bachelor, I have it, of course, so, for all the children. But it's a really good story. It's well written. It's just really, it breaks the mold of what a typical fairy tale story would be, and it's just really enjoyable. So that's my comic book recommendation.
I've heard of it, definitely, but I've never read through it.
It's worth it. Definitely worth it.
Probably more worth it than this, but if you like Metalocalypse, there you go. There's that.
Let's end by talking about the goodness of campaign board games.
Campaign board games?
Yes, things like, I don't know, Gloomhaven?
I want to play some more Gloomhaven.
Or even things like Pandemic Legacy.
Do you have the second season? Are you leading into something?
No, I mean, I'll get it if we want to play, and if we can get
D&D. Yeah, let's talk about D&D. Specifically, Adventures in Middle Earth variant of D&D.
You mean the one that had like 1.5 sessions?
Yep,
that's the one.
We had a lot of fun with that. Gloomhaven is awesome. Star Wars role playing. I have not done any Star Wars role playing. I would be down for any of that type of stuff if we ever had a good group. The key is you got to find a GM. We can never find a GM that
a DM who wants to,
or DM, whatever. Yeah,
a DM who wants to do it. Which there are people out there who are bent that way, and then there are people who just aren't. And I'm not.
Star Wars would be fun. Yeah, we can talk about the board games. Was there something specific, or?
No, I wrote them down. I figured Pandemic Legacy, since we both kind of went through that, something that we could talk about. Obviously, we don't want to talk spoilers, but
all the spoilers.
Oh, there's so many. LARPing.
Wasn't Keith Sutherland the guy who played in 24?
Yes.
Because I want to point out that when we went through our version of Pandemic Legacy Season 1, I played a character called Jack Bauer.
You sure did.
I named one of the dudes Jack Bauer.
And it turned out
badly.
Not great.
For him, anyway.
There's a lot of potential for things in that game not to go well.
But his story specifically turned out very bad. I won't name which character it was in case anyone ever plays it, but yes, those are very fun. I have a group at work who are into board game, and that stream froze. Turns out the virus. Uh oh, stream froze. Did it?
It's not frozen for me.
Oh, okay. So, Pandemic Legacy, if you're not familiar with what a legacy game is, and Ryan, step in if I suck.
I'll step
But the idea is, if you've ever played Pandemic, it's a board game where you have to eradicate these diseases that pop up, and you fly all over the planet and try to contain these outbreaks. And there's all these mechanics where you have to get the board cleaned up and everything cured before the outbreaks overwhelm the planet. The legacy version of that is a board game that changes every time you play it. Like, you can only play through it technically once, unless you have like a restart kit. We won't get into that necessarily, but every time you play through it actually changes the board. There's stickers you put down, there's characters and cards that can be ripped up depending on what happened to them. And the idea is there's a whole storyline instead of just this generic version of the game where you have to read the backstory, and there's all these things that get flavor text that go on, and these conditions you got to meet, and you basically play through a full year of these outbreaks happening and try to contain them. So a group of us got together and played Pandemic Legacy Season 1 a while ago, and it took us a while to get through it because you got to play it like, I guess the max you could play is 24 times. But
which I think we ended up at like 15 or 16 playthroughs.
It definitely wasn't 24, but there was a couple months we had to play twice. And man, oh man, that was a lot of fun. I like those type of games. And Gloomhaven is another one of these type of games where you kind of play through and the board changes and the story changes. And
yeah, Gloomhaven has a mechanic where I don't remember how many characters it comes with. Like when it first comes, there's like 6 characters you can choose from. And like as you're playing through and completing missions and stuff, you unlock certain goals and certain characters. And I think there's a total of like 16 or something different characters that you eventually end up with after you unlock everything. And it's, yeah, exactly. As you reach certain goals, and that basically is your character's retirement. In doing the retirement, usually you end up with a new character that opens in correspondence with that. Although there are some side goals like opening up certain envelopes that are marked certain ways and things like that as well. But then even as you're playing through with those characters, like you can buy upgrades for the cards of each individual character. So if somebody goes to play that character again next time around, a certain card in their pack may have certain little stickers on it that permanently go on there to make those cards better to play through. And so there's a lot of different ways that it grows as you play it over time. Gloomhaven is probably one of the most intense like board games I have ever played, and it's not hard to play. It is kind of a pain to get set up constantly, but it is consistently fun from beginning to end. And just like even now, my group has played through it, hasn't played it in a while, but like every once in a while, we're just like, Gloomhaven.
yeah.
Yes, let's do Gloomhaven because everybody still likes it, and you can just pull it out and feel like, yeah,
The
this is fun.
one thing I've really enjoyed about Gloomhaven the couple times I've been able to play it is how it seems to strike a really good balance, at least early on. I've only played a couple of the beginner sections of feeling dire, but then you win, right? Like there's every time I've played the 3 times maybe now, it's been like, okay, there's literally no way we can finish this. And then like you end up squeaking it out at the end, and it just feels really satisfying. I don't know if later the power creep like ruins that, but early on it feels super nice because we've won most of those campaigns, but it was not easy. Like it felt weighty. That makes sense.
Yeah, I will say, I mean, we kind of did a modded campaign where we played with 5 active players through most of it. And very early on, the balancing worked well, but it might have been partly because we had 5 people. As we got later on and more characters built up, the 5-man team seemed to just, not that we never had any challenges, but it like very rarely was like, oh no, we might lose this. but I think that if you stick within the design elements of like 2 to 4 players, or I think they may even have a solo way of setting it up, but it's really not too bad. But yeah, no, the dynamic of playing through and just you can only play so long before you literally have to be burning cards, and once you're out of cards, you're basically out of life, is kind of how it works. I mean, it's not exactly how it works, but it's the element. It's like, oh, you're exhausted now and you're done. And it is very different than really anything else that I've played. Like the dungeon crawl part has been done in many different levels. A lot of the Fantasy Flight games, like Descent or even Star Wars Imperial Assault, all kind of do like the whole multiple characters with different weaknesses and strength thing, and do the dungeon crawl across the map thing pretty well. But yeah, there's something about the actions as cards which double as like your energy or your how much how much
Like
energy you
action
have left,
points type.
action points sort of thing. Like, yeah, it's done really, really well, and it's different, and it's just smooth and easy and fun. So
What's interesting is they have a video gamed version of this, which I've been keeping an eye on, and I refuse to buy it until they put in multiplayer co-op, which sounds like is on the roadmap if they get enough support behind it, but not right now. It's on Steam. It's like less than $30. It's a pre-release type thing, but if you want to play it solo, I've heard pretty good things about it from the couple people that I know that have actually tried it. But I don't want to play it solo. I want to play it with friends. Like, I'd like to get almost that board game experience where like we get 4 people in a group and play through a couple dungeons. I think that'd be super fun.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, without like I understand that it's a lot of game to try to get programmed, I suppose. I mean, it is and it isn't. From a video game standpoint, it feels like once you have the elements in place as far as like the structure of the game, like it's really just a matter of time of fitting in all the individual elements, like the various campaigns, map layouts, and the
Oh, you've
different.
been playing it, Straith? Sounds like he says it's
Yeah,
exactly, which is good. That's what I would
yeah.
want. I just would want to be able to do it with friends, not by myself. Nice. Was there anything more specific about board games you wanted to get into? We are at the 2-hour mark, a little over.
No, I think that was pretty much it.
Just
I
wanted to
just
mention
really
how
like.
cool they are.
I did have one more thing I wanted to say. They just released the newest version of Clank, which is a legacy style playthrough.
I want it. Do you have it?
No, because it's like $60, and I already have Clank with like 15 um, expansions. And although eventually I would like to buy it, right now I don't have money to do that. Well, I have money.
Is it out? Because I'll get it.
It's out.
I'll get it,
Came
but
out
you guys
like
got to
2
start
weeks
coming over
ago
and we'll
or
have to
so.
play through it.
If you get it, I will come over and we will play through it.
The wife loves Clank. Like, we bought our own version of Clank. She likes it a lot.
Rebecca.
Yeah, Ryan is the board game geek of our group. He's got a lot.
That is just a portion. It is not the whole thing at all.
We have a lot of fun with that stuff. Real quick, and then we'll wrap things up. I got a free copy of 7 Wonders. We were talking about it at work, and I usually make that an example of a game that I really have had a lot of fun with. A handful of times you brought it over, and some lady popped her head around, not some lady, I know who she is, I'm just not gonna say her name on stream. Popped her head around the corner, was like, "Hey, did you say 7 Wonders?" I was like, "Yep." And she's like, "We hate that game. We have a copy. You want it?" I was like,
What?
"If you're gonna get rid of it and never gonna play it again, I 100% will take that from you." So
I don't even understand anybody could hate that game. Like,
I don't.
7 Wonders is like one of the it's one of the classics. It's like,
Yeah.
well,
I'll admit it's not super intuitive when you first get into it. The first time we played it, like, I remember, like, you just got to play through it a couple times and you'll get it, and that's true. So maybe they hadn't really sat down and got through it a couple times, but now that I've been through it, it's a fantastic game. Like, it's just great.
Yeah, I tell anytime I'm teaching people how to play 7 Wonders, my first thing I say is, if we're going to do this, you have to commit to play this twice in a row.
Yeah.
Because if you just play it once, you'll be like, this game is stupid. But if you play through it once, get an understanding of how it works, and then you play it a second time, suddenly you start seeing things and you're like, oh, this game is actually really good. And everybody who I've gone through with it twice has always finished the second game and been like, I like this game. I want to play it again. So,
Robo Rally.
I've heard of Robo Rally, but I've never actually played Robo Rally. That's a game that's been around for a while.
I have to look it up.
I
Walmart
do
has it for
have
$40.
the League of Legends game that we played like 2 missions in once.
I really like that game. That was with the miniatures. That had some really solid miniatures in it. Like those things looked really nice.
I can't even remember that. Oh, Mechs and Minions. That was the game.
Yeah, that was super good.
Which I feel like is somewhat, at least in theory, similar to Robo Rally, where like the cards that move you and.
Yeah. What was it called? Minions? Something Minions?
Mechs and Minions is the one I have.
Yeah, Mechs and Minions. That was, we played a couple rounds of that. That was super fun. And the miniatures were some of the best I've ever seen in a board game. They were stellar.
Yeah, that's very similar in gameplay to Mechs and Minions as far as it's in Mechs and Minions you basically have I'm doing like things. You have like a player board, which is a pattern that your mech goes through every turn, and so as you lay out the cards, it just will continually do that, and then you can overlay certain ones so that each turn it slightly shifts and whatnot. So it's not the same kind of idea, but it's a very different framework, I guess I would say, than Robo Rally. But it's fun. But Robo Rally is something I'd be interested in. Another game that has a similar mechanic is Space Alert, which is a live is a weird way of saying it. It's it's like a real-time game where like as you're playing through, which Adam, I don't think you've ever played Space Alert.
I don't think so.
Maybe next time we do a game night, I'll have to bring that over. It's not my copy of it, but if a friend is going to leave it at my house, I feel like I can bring it over.
It's a fair game. We'll treat it well.
But basically you have like originally it came with a CD. Now you can get an app that just plays through like a sequence of like 3 or 4 minutes of like things coming and hitting your spaceship. And it's broken into sections. And you have a player board where basically everybody programs their moves responding to the things that are happening. And after you get to a certain point, like the first checkpoint, you can't change anything in that first section anymore. That's locked in as far as your movements and your actions, and you go on to the second part. And so you have to keep track of everything that's happening, get everybody onto the same page as far as reacting and responding to it without duplicating each other or running into each other. And then at the same point, you go through each and you get locked in, and then you get to the very end, and you basically the mission ends, and then you go back and actually play, like act out everything that happened. And it's because there's a lot of pressure, and like there's different things like a communication interruption in the middle of it where suddenly nobody can talk or communicate for like 5 seconds in the middle of this. And then they'll have times where it's like where you can trade cards and actions for like a short bit, and then there are other times where like you can't do anything. And there's one point where like in the middle of the game, if somebody doesn't wiggle the mouse, then the targeting computers or something shut down, like go into screensaver mode, and it takes a whole extra turn to like reactivate everything later on. And like so there's just a lot of things to keep track of in a very short period of time. And then you have to play it all out. But it's a really fun game.
I'd be down for that.
Fun stuff. I like the programming games. It's where like you have to program it and make sure you don't suck at programming it beforehand. It's a good concept.
Cool. Well, it's 11:10. You want to call it there?
2 hours. Yeah.
We did. We have been live for 2 hours and 13 minutes. Of course, first 5 minutes of that was the starting screen. So we've done good. This is a good episode. I feel good about it. So we'll just wrap some things up here. So I want to thank Spectre for the host, Ray for showing up with his rating party, Root Beer for the follow, Otis, Chris, everybody for chatting. Thanks for stopping by. We again are continuing to do this every other week. At least that's our hope. The next one will probably be the 30th, so it probably won't happen on that day. We're going to work out some details. If you want to keep up on when we're going to do the podcast, please check out my socials below. I'll put it on Twitter or Instagram, even though I hate Instagram, but I use it, so it's there. And then we will put all these episodes up on YouTube as well. So if for some reason you missed one of them or want to go back and check one of these out, or you missed the first half of this episode where we did a lot more talking about some of the Star Wars stuff, this will be up on YouTube either tonight or tomorrow. And you can check that out. Again, links below in the panels. Other than that, again, if you want to support the channel, you can drop a like for Twitch or subscribe on YouTube. On Twitch, if you can supply a Twitch Prime subscription, that helps a lot and doesn't cost you anything. If you already have Amazon Prime, you can just link it to your Twitch account. That gives you a free sub. And I think that's it for the housekeeping stuff. Ryan, did you have anything else before we let the people go?
No, it's been fun. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, we'll do it again soon.
All right. We'll see you guys soon.